Hebrews, Hebrews, Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Sabbath class of June 7th, 2025. Okay, I'll be dealing with the book of Barak, second Barak, and this video. We'll listen to it and play it. It's time the tribe of Judah to the end time. So we're going to read that. We're going to listen to it, follow along in second Barak. Okay, you can go to our YouTube channel, the Prophets of Awakening. Check out our videos. We have over 1,000 or so videos you can look at, examine, get the meat out. And if you like what you're hearing and receiving, I'm asking you to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It'll be greatly appreciated. Okay, we come live on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, 7 to 9. On Thursday nights, we have our Women Advanced Bible Study. And that's on our sister channel, which is Israel Wake Up. It's from 7 to 9 every Thursday night. We have our Men's Advanced Bible Study every Friday night here on Prophets of Awakening. That's from 7 to 9. We have 2 Shabbat classes on the Shabbat, 1 in the morning from 10 to 12. Then we close out the Shabbat in the evening from 6 to 7. And we have an advanced Bible study on Sundays, every Sunday evening at 5. So any of those times you feel the need to come in and engage, you're welcome. Okay, for those that don't know, this is a non-Messianic channel. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh being the Old Testament, so-called Book of Remembrance, and the Torah is the first 5 books of the Old Testament that was given to Moses by our Redeemer and our Savior, the Lord of hosts. Okay. Shalom and welcome to the channel, and welcome to our Shabbat class. We're going to do our normal, which is a moment of silence, prayer, Psalms. We have some current events, need to know information, and we'll open it up for anybody with any questions, comments, any dialogue. And my topic for discussion is, like I had said earlier, I'll be dealing with the New York and the Black Americans and how they are distinguishing from the migrants from the blacks. They support the migrants, but they don't support the blacks. And then we're going to our topic for discussion, which is in second Barak. Then we'll pick a scripture and we'll close out. Okay. This moment of silence is for the Lord of hosts, and all he's doing is bring about our prophesied deliverance in these last days. Oh Lord, we come before thee at this hour and at this time to thank thee and to praise thee for thy strength and thy great power. Oh Lord, we come before thee with praise because we understand now who you are, and we appreciate you. We appreciate your love, we appreciate your wisdom and your consistency, and we appreciate your patience and understanding. Okay, therefore, we come this day seeking love and wisdom, consistency of spirit, and your understanding. Peace be unto you. Okay, so with that being said, read the song right quick. Okay, I'll read Psalms 88. It's a cry for deliverance from death. O Lord, my God, O Lord, God, my salvation, I have cried day and night before thee. Let my prayer come before thee. Incline thine ear unto my cry. For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draweth nigh unto the grave. I am counted with them that go down into the pit. I am as a man that have no strength, free among the dead, like the slain that lie in graves, whom thou rememberest no more, and they are cut off from thy hand. Thou hast laid me in the lowest pit, in darkness, in the deeps. And say, thy wrath lieth hard upon me, and thou hast afflicted me with all thy waves. Selah, thou hast put away mine acquaintance far from me. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up, and I cannot come forth. Mine eye mourneth by reason of affliction. Lord, I have called daily upon thee. I have stretched out my hand unto thee. Wilt thou show wonders to the dead? Shall the dead arise and praise thee? Selah, shall thy loving kindness be declared in the grave, or thy faithfulness in destruction? Shall thy wonders be known in the dark, and thy righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But unto thee have I cried, O Lord, and in the morning shall my prayers prevent thee. Lord, why castest thou off my soul? Why hidest thou thy face from me? I am afflicted and ready to die from my youth up. While I suffer thy terrors, I am distracted. Thy fierce wrath goeth over me. Thy terrors have cut me off. They came round about me daily like water. They compass me about together, lover and friend, as they put far from me, and mine acquaintances in darkness. Okay, that was Psalms 88. It's a cry for deliverance from death. So me reading this, first of all, it takes me to when David, I talked about this last night, when David passed away. Before he passed away, he had a dream or vision was shown him. And this is 2 Samuel chapter 22. And some of the same things that this guy is saying. His name is look like Herman the Ezrahite. He's talking about the same things about being finding himself when he died. He found his soul in hell and surrounded by these wicked spirits, and he's crying out to the Lord to deliver him from that, to bring him up to the heaven where he is. It seems as though it's something going on with that. I might have to do some more research with that, but it's the same thing that happened to David. It seems as though it's happened to this guy right here. So I'm gonna check that out, and then I'll give you some more information on it. Any comments or questions? Okay. With that being said, I'll go to some current events. So this first video is about drama on with Elon Musk, Trump.
I'm very disappointed in Elon. I've helped Elon a lot.
Musk threatened to decommission SpaceX's Dragon spacecraft. That's a big deal for U.S. space missions.
Dragon has been the only U.S. spacecraft launched by a U.S.-based company transporting astronauts to and from the station from the U.S.
I find this to be disconcerting how quickly this went to the threatening from contracts. That's not good for the United States.
Musk retracted the threat just hours later. Still, as the feud continues, SpaceX remains one of the largest financial and logistical vulnerabilities for both Musk and Trump. Since 2008, the government has awarded SpaceX more than $20 billion in contracts across at least 10 different agencies. Most of it is focused here.
NASA needs SpaceX, SpaceX needs NASA.
Musk said recently that SpaceX is expected to generate $1.1 billion in revenue this year from NASA. The company is less dependent on government contracts than it was in the past, but still does big business with agencies.
SpaceX has really deep relationships with a lot of government agencies. Unraveling that would not be easy for either side.
NASA made a push during the Obama administration to contract with commercial companies.
We want to leap into the future.
We had one launch provider, United Launch Alliance. They were the result of a merger of Lockheed and Boeing. When they consolidated, the costs went up and the U.S. lost market share to the rest of the world, namely China, France, and Russia. We set up competitions, and SpaceX has been by far the leader in these major competitions.
Between Starlink flights and missions for outside customers, SpaceX carried out nearly double the amount of launches than the next three most active companies combined.
That is like a huge ongoing, business and something that SpaceX is expected to be doing for years to come.
Agencies also contract SpaceX for its own satellites, its growing and strategically important Starlink system.
You see sort of Starlink popping up in everything from military bases or government agencies needing some kind of satellite internet solution.
One of the most notable contracts is one to provide Starlink to Ukraine.
A lot of military officials who are thinking about the future of war have been obsessed and really interested in how the Ukrainians have used Starlink. That experience and that conflict zone has created just a lot of awareness at the Pentagon and frankly in governments around the world about the need for fast, reliable, secure communications in conflict areas.
So with all of this, what does it mean for SpaceX and NASA in Musk and Trump's potential divorce?
Getting more competition is probably the biggest answer. Elon himself says he wants competition. Unfortunately, SpaceX is so far ahead in so many areas that will take years.
NASA experts think that a full breakup is unlikely.
SpaceX, Elon have every incentive to do this work. It's all supports what his long-term vision is, as stated, to colonize Mars and make life interplanetary, make humanity interplanetary.
Ideally, we can take anyone who wants to go to Mars. We can take to Mars.
A NASA spokesperson said in a statement that NASA will continue to execute upon the president's vision for the future of space. And
Okay, any comments on that?
Shalom. I think it's interesting that I don't know if this is propaganda or not, but America is supposed to have been this place where competition is supposed to thrive, but yet you put yourself in a position to where you have a sole source providing all of this technology, and NASA is one of the biggest budgets that we have secondary to the military. And you're going to tell me that if we lose SpaceX or Elon Musk, that somehow we're going to fall behind everybody else? Where was all of this technology and development and innovation, where all our money was going before Elon Musk came on?
Right, exactly. So it's like they said, misguiding the media, like to misguide people and lead them in the wrong direction. Misinformation.
Right, because there's I know that France is also competing with Starlink for Ukraine's uh, bid to provide that satellite system. I mean, the only one we hear about is Starlink, but they're not the only one out there. And keep driving us to this sole source creates that very thing that they said they didn't want, was these monopolies on this stuff, where we would be at the mercy of these billionaires to price us, give us the prices that they want us to have instead of having fair competition.
Right. Yeah. On the other side of that too, looking at this, and the importance they're showing us with Starlink tied to Ukraine, everybody all discombobulated about how Ukraine was able to do what they done with those that last attack they had. It's Starlink. They bombed those planes in Russia. Anybody seen that?
I did, but they said that process has been in the works for 18 months, and Starlink was the mechanism to ignite, or I'm not saying the right word, but to set it off. But they had to have those things placed inside Russia, which we had been hearing the whole time during the Biden administration, that we could not use any kind of weaponry by America inside of Ukraine. So when did they plant all this stuff in those areas for them to have this type of attack that they had, and then use Starlink to start it? You understand what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right. It was a drone. Them were drone attacks.
Oh, part of it. Oh, the other part I heard was not only was it drones, but it was also they had weapons like inside canisters and stuff like that that had been placed
Okay.
strategically around the bases. And when they initiated the attack, those things came out of those things. They wasn't just like something that flew into the country. They had them strategically placed around those areas for such a of an attack. Like I said, they said I mean because we don't know. It was
Right.
18 months in the making.
Right. Yeah, that don't add up.
Yeah, it don't.
Right. Anybody else? Okay. So with that being said, we go to our next video.
No. And the Russians know, having spent 11 years building themselves up, growing their economies much faster than the United States, and much faster than the United States and its G7 allies, that they now have in their BRICS alliance people from whom they can buy, people to whom they can sell, and those people are more than half the population of the world and have shown in the Ukraine war that they can absorb whatever it is that the United States and Western Europe wish to do in interfering with the trade of Russia.
You know, listening to that, you realize how profoundly the global balance has shifted. Just 2 decades ago, the US and its allies could isolate a nation like Russia with the flick of a switch.
This is Google Pixel 9a with Gemini. It's free.
Now, that kind of economic dominance just doesn't hold the same weight. Countries like China and India have built up alternative trade networks. And while Washington still talks sanctions, much of the world is quietly moving on, building their own systems, their own alliances. That's a tectonic change, and it signals a world where the US can no longer act as the sole economic enforcer.
When Russia couldn't sell its oil and gas to the Europeans, did they collapse the way the Europeans promised? No. Did the ruble disappear the way the Europeans promised? No. Did the levying of much more than a literal embargo? We're not going to buy your oil and gas. We're not going to let you use our SWIFT international payments system. We're going to seize $300 billion of assets back in your currency that you have kept in Western institutions, and so on. All of these things, which in total are a bigger effort against Russia than what Mr. Lindsey Graham now proposes, they all failed. So I got news for Mr. Graham. His proposal, if it were adopted, will not only fail to hold back Russia and China in the way all the previous sanctions and limits and tariffs have failed, but will enhance the already badly damaged reputation of the United States. But the United States can't do it for the reasons Michael just summarized. So the United States is throwing the Europeans right under the bus. We're not doing this anymore. You're going to have to do it for yourself. Yes, but we can't do that and be the social democratic societies we were developed over history to be. And if you make us impose an austerity, then you will see that the Mélenchon in France and their equivalents everywhere else will take the power because they can ride your inability. The Germans, we're spending $80 billion on defense. Oh, really? How to play in their own country? Not well. Mr. Merz is a very thin majority. Mr. Macron has no majority. And Starmer has pissed away the little bit of bump he got because the conservatives were so awful. They now face the reality that another Trump-like figure, Farage, may become there next week. I mean, these are societies levels of decay. So I don't think the United States can do most of what it is they're threatening to do. I don't see it. I don't see them able to get the rest of the world to go along with this desperate effort now that they're a nation, now that the rest of the world has caught up or exceeded them. They're not in a position to dictate and understand it.
That's the blind spot of every great power in decline. The structures that once gave them control no longer apply, but the instincts remain the same. History has seen this play out before with the British, the Romans. Denial only prolongs the fall.
They have the big military, they are very rich. It's very hard for them, as it was for the British before them, to understand that they are now going back to what they were, a small offshore wet island off of Europe. That's the British Empire's resting place. And the United States is going its path to a decline from its peak. And all you have is a desperate leadership that wants, on the one hand, to pander to the public awareness by pretending the decline of the empire isn't happening, while at the same time taking these extraordinarily desperate, chaotic, disruptive steps in a final last effort to do what isn't anymore available to them to do.
That sums.
Okay. Any comments on that?
I agree with them.
Exactly. Yeah, it's just playing out. Like I said, we dealing with the ninth incarnation of the four beasts. We going into, we witnessing the 10th and final horn that's on the head of the four beasts. That's where we going. And it's not supposed to last long. So he had two little wings that were reserved for the end. That's Russia and China. That's what we're looking at. Esau controlling it, but that's the last two wings coming into play. We're looking at it unfold. Anybody else got any comments on that? Okay, you got some need to know information right here. Okay.
I'm Legia Miller. Let's get started. Today, we're going to talk about the disturbing report from the New York Times that confirms the U.S. government is partnering with Peter Thiel firm Palantir to create one mega database of hundreds of data points on every American. First, we'll discuss what Palantir even is. Then we'll look into the DOJ-led efforts to consolidate data on Americans across agencies with the help of and the potential risks, not only from a national security standpoint, but also in the context of a growing police state. Let's get into it. I have a foreboding of an America in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when awesome technological powers are in the hands of a very few, and no one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues, when the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true. We slide, almost without noticing, back into superstition and darkness. That is the quote from Carl Sagan, beloved scientist to nerds the world over, that appeared at the top of the open letter signed by former Palantir employees in May, urging tech workers everywhere to resist complicity with the Trump regime and, quote, speak out while we still can. It accuses Palantir's leadership of abandoning its founding ideals of protecting ethical data practices, privacy protections, accountability, transparency, and defense of democracy. Instead, the letter says, quote, big tech, including Palantir, is increasingly complicit, normalizing authoritarianism under the guise of revolution led by oligarchs. The letter warns companies are placating Trump's administration, suppressing dissent, and aligning with his xenophobic, sexist, and oligarchic agenda. Government databases are already erasing references to transgender people and gender-affirming care. These injustices could be facilitated by the very software infrastructure we helped build. It's fitting that this letter would involve Palantir, the private company that is apparently at the center of the alleged scheme to centralize vast swaths of data on all Americans, potentially making that data vulnerable to hacking and exposure and facilitating a more robust and efficient police state if it's put to nefarious uses. As Linda Zia, one of the signees of the open letter, told the New York Times, quote, data that is collected for one reason should not be repurposed for other uses. Combining all that data, even with the noblest of intentions, significantly increases the risk of misuse. Given the track record of this administration, noble intentions are probably not what's guiding this latest push. It's been interesting to watch the news of this mega database play out across the media landscape, with the right and left reacting in different ways. This headline from USA Today caught my eye. Trump administration's emerging surveillance state raises privacy concerns. It's helpful to see in the Ground News browser extension that this publication leans left. So to get a fuller picture of the story, I can click on full coverage. On the Ground News website, I can see that 63 sources are covering this topic, with interpretations varying wildly depending on the bias of the publication. For example, left-leaning Democracy Now! Uses the headline, Palantir, Peter Thiel's data mining firm helps DOJ build master database to surveil, track immigrants. While the far-right Express US uses the headline, Trump's MAGA base outraged as unnerving citizen database is created, indicating no worries about vulnerable populations like immigrants and instead choosing to focus on a citizen database. Depending.
Yeah, the name of this video is Trump Plan to Surveil America. And so what I wanted to shine a light on is the fact that all through history, when you understand the four beasts, who the four beasts really is Esau. Esau is the four beasts. That's the one that's decked in red, that's riding on the beast. He's riding on the four beasts. So it's not Trump playing. They've been doing this forever. Even when they came to the West Coast and got us, they got everybody thinking through history that these ships came, but it was a particular group of people that benefited from it. It was those Edomites. They owned the ships, and the people that was on it was Edomites, the captains that controlled the ships, and the Rothschilds and families like that owned those ships. It's a distinct group of people, but they subvert them. They hide themselves by using other people as front people. Like right here, this ain't none of Trump playing. It's these Edomites playing. When they brought Israel into as a nation in 1948, there was they playing. But they put it off on whoever the American president was at the time, or they put it off on the UN. But these Edomites dictating all this. They doing all this. That's who the Creator talking to in the scriptures, and people being discombobulated because they're not understanding that. None of this has to do with. Okay. Any comments on that?
Shalom.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said, because listening to that video and in that context, the information has always been in one place. Social Security, when they talk about all of our Social Security numbers are being exposed, they've always had the ability to be exposed. They've always been in a database. The issue has been who controlled the database, right?
Exactly.
And so to me, they screaming like somehow something, we had a false sense of security. We didn't know about all this stuff. It wasn't being talked about. All of a sudden it's out in the public, and they're trying to give us this false sense of security that everything was secure before. But all of our information has always been vulnerable to those who were wealthy and powerful. That's why we be getting all these sort of certain types of algorithms and stuff that pop up on our phones when you search for something and all that. They've always had that. That's not something new. They just, it's just the way that they put out information. It makes it seem like it's new, but it's not. They've always had that access. That's all I wanted to say.
Right, exactly. And so many people being deceived by that. They're not understanding that they jumped. That's like when Obama won. All these black folks ran to Washington D.C. like that was some big thing. Esau set that up. Come on, that guy he made one little speech, at the Democratic National Convention in the next year be the president. Come on. You ain't had nothing to do with that. Same people that's behind all of this, behind that, behind the Vietnam War, these the same people. Like I say, it goes all the way back to when Julius Caesar got killed. Same group of people killed Julius Caesar. Same ones that killed JFK. Okay? That's why the Most High says in Second Ezra that you beasts that have ruled so long. We're talking about Esau. Okay? So with that being said, I'm gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody have any questions or comments about what we talked about on the women's line or the men's line, or anything we talked about during the week? Information somebody came across they wanted to share. Okay. You want to talk? Anybody have any questions about the? Let me see if I can get that in my head. Right. Esther, Project Esther. That we talked about. We talked about it on the women's line and the men's line. If you didn't come across it, if you didn't see the video on Messenger, there's a video out there on Messenger about Project Esther that they uncovered. That's is the mother to Project 2025. So you hadn't seen it, you can either Google it or you can go to Messenger and check it out. It's mind-boggling, okay, to say the least. So with that being said, nobody have anything to say, I'm gonna play this. Okay.
Right now, millions and millions of Americans all over the United States are struggling. And they're struggling because they don't make enough money. That is the start of the problems. But that is also why many businesses are preparing for mass strikes at this time. Today, I'm going to show you some stories. So
like I said, notice what's going on. You got mass eruptions, mass protests. Let's go back to what I said about harps. You can believe it or not, over in Africa, and now they doing it over here too. It's almost simultaneous. Mass eruptions, mass protests, the people protesting all over Africa, same way over here. This is Esau.
Very recent stories of people that are preparing to go on strike. Some that are already doing it, some that are preparing, and others that are saying we need more money and we need it now. But businesses want to wait. They want to hold off on giving raises because they don't know what to expect in this current economy. There's so much uncertainty. Businesses are struggling, and it's causing the people to struggle as well. Now, I'm going to break all this down in just a moment, but if you are one of those people that are concerned currently what the economy looks like, but also whether or not you're going to have a job or an income in the next 3 to 6 months, go ahead, hit that like button, and now let's begin. So look at this right here. This article says, North Texas Union truck drivers threaten strike over fair wages and autonomous semi concerns. I have a friend that owns a very small trucking company. Actually, scratch that. I have a friend that owned a very small trucking company. This company had less than 20 trucks. Okay, I'd assume that's small. Now, he owned this company for 20, 25 years, something like that. Got it handed down from his grandfather, and the company went under about a month ago. And the reason I bring this up is because he said one thing. Truckers were demanding more money. They were demanding more money, which normally would be okay, it would be acceptable, and it was during the pandemic. But the reason why he couldn't give them more money is because he wasn't making more money. Many truckers wanted to be paid when they're sitting there waiting for their next load. But unfortunately, that's not the way the industry worked. So he ended up losing a bunch of money over the past several months. And so he decided it's best for him and his family to just shut the company down. And that's what he did. But now truck drivers are saying they are going to go on strike if they don't get more money. They're wanting fair wages. That's the big one. But look at this. It's not just truckers. It says nurses calling on Mass General Bingham for fair wages and benefits. That is just from the past couple of days. So nurses as well as truckers are demanding fair wages. Because keep in mind, many trucking companies are making boatloads of money. Many hospitals and clinics are making billions of dollars. Many retailers are making billions of dollars. And so everyone's asking for fair wages based off what they are contributing to that particular business. But look at this one as well. This right here says workers approve strikes as they escalate battle with big grocery. Again, just from a couple days ago. Look at this one right here. It says Kroger hit with shareholder protest for higher wages. It says group calls for vote against chairman to highlight inadequate worker salaries. I want to read a little bit of this to you because again, what we have experienced is many of these grocery stores and they're raising prices. They're making a little bit more money, but they're not giving that money to the workers. Okay, and this is what's turning into a massive problem. Look at this right here.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay, I got a video for a topic for discussion. It's about New York. Let me play that.
In New York City, there are programs designed for immigrants. But if you create one for Black Americans, they take you home, sue you, shut it down. The message is loud and clear. Help everybody except the people who built this country. It goes down in Valor with a message of the day.
While Black Americans was forced out of New York City, Black immigrants replaced them. But let me break this down. It's called the out-migration. When Black Americans left New York City because they couldn't afford it anymore, Black immigrants were able to replace them and stay there because they were given additional support. So in New York City, you have something like, it's called NYCHA, right? New York City Housing Authorities. They offer, Section 8 vouchers. Usually those programs are just for Black Americans and other U.S. citizens. But the Black immigrants had additional support and additional programs that they qualify outside of that. Does that make sense? Programs like DCS, Diaspora Community Service, which specifically is for Afro-Caribbean families and helping them with housing. BAG, Black Alliance just for immigrants, programs that just focus on Black immigrants across the Black diaspora. Another program.
Check this out, guys. I want people to really wrap their head around the fact that there's a constitutional law against helping us. You know, immigrants are your boy, but you cannot help Black Americans. Folks, I want you to really wrap your head around what Don is saying. In New York City, and I'm sure there's other states like this, you can specifically help immigrants, migrants, Caribbean, Nigerian, whatever. Particular program. And it won't get struck down by Congress. It will not get challenged in the courts. But if you tell Black Americans, white Americans go, no. What about you discriminate? They don't consider it discrimination when they help immigrants. I want all my detractors to pay attention to this. This is an important segment. Why is it discrimination when your courts help us? I saw some black women, they had a program where they were helping small businesses, black small businesses find seed capital. Only 2% of venture capitalist money goes to black businesses. 2% of venture capitalist money goes to black-owned businesses. 90% of venture capitalist money goes to white-owned businesses. White-owned male businesses, by the way. The rest goes to white women, black people, black women, Latino women, like it's, get what I'm saying? So these women started an organization and did that. You know, they got challenged in court. They lost a lawsuit in court that says they could not help, this black woman organization could not help have a grant for like $10,000 to other black women businesses because it discriminated against who? White people who got the GI Bill, Manifest Destiny, all the money, all the building, all the land, but it was to help black people get a grant because that's not fair to white people. Meanwhile, they get all the venture capitalist money. We don't. In America, if you can help migrants, you can't help black folks. Why do you think Oprah built a school in Africa? Why do you think you turn around, you see a celebrity doing something? They do it in Africa. They do it other places where brown people live or black people live, but not black Americans. Why? Because they come after them when they help black Americans. That's why I try to support LeBron James' school, because at least he had the guts to do that in America. It ain't about his play on the Lakers. It ain't about if he flopped too much or something. I don't know.
Which also help Africans and Caribbean immigrants with housing, more resources for them to sustain their living conditions. Make the Road New York, which assists Afro-Caribbeans and Afro-Latinos, protecting them from evictions. Act Afro communities together.
Okay. Any comments on that? Feedback? Okay, well, it's obvious that they've been doing that because that's the reason why we don't progress. Like Dr. Claude Anderson said, the same percentage that our ownership that we had when at the emancipation, when they emancipated us, same percentage that we got now. And it ain't changed. So shouldn't be surprised. Okay. So like I said, our scripture reading I'm playing a video, and it's about Second Ezra and how, and I talk about this all the time, tribe of Judah, right? Everybody wasn't scattered over the whole world. That's the narrative they want you to think, but it was Southern Kingdom, the head. Most High said, Lord of Hosts said, the head is sick. And so the head, which is Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, especially Levi, like I said, the suffering servant, because he is the co-judge along with the Lord of Hosts, judging the earth. And they turned away from the Lord. So they were the ones that were scattered. So let's look at it.
Teach that the world is going to end.
Okay.
Barry?
Yeah.
Here we go.
And this is where all the dead bodies were. In the 1800s, slaves were locked in this room, awaiting auction in unhuman conditions. Windows were kept small to prevent escape. There were around 70 women and children in this room. The hole in the middle was used as a toilet, and out of sheer desperation, the slaves drank the water that was full of bodies, blood, urine, feces, and water from flooding conditions. Most died of diseases and starvation. And this is where all the dead bodies were.
Shalom. The vast majority of people here on the earth have no idea why the Most High has promised to hasten the of his return. Christians, one of the leading religions in the world, believe that the end times, spoke of in Revelations, describes a final judgment day where the current world will be replaced by a new heaven and earth. signifying the end of the current world existence as we know it. This is interpreted as a necessary step for the ultimate triumph of good over evil and the return of a white Savior named Jesus Christ to establish a new kingdom. Christianity is a dangerous religion because they use our ancestors' books to create their own narrative and version of the Israelites' history book, the Bible. They mix truth with lies, add and take away, and never explain what sin is, nor do they teach who the Israelites and their Savior really are. But today we're going to learn why this kingdom must quickly come to an end and what the signs are that the Most High is doing a work in this earth. Second Baruch chapter 24. For behold, the days come, and the books shall be opened, in which are written the sins of all those who have sinned, and again also the treasuries, in which the righteousness of those who have been righteous in creation is gathered. For it shall come to pass at that time that you shall see, and the many that are with you, the long suffering of El Elyon, which has been throughout all generations, who has been long suffering towards all who are born, alike those who sin and those who are righteous. And I answered and said, Behold, O Yahuwah, no one knows the number of those things which have passed, nor yet of those things which are to come. For I know indeed that which has befallen us. But what will happen to our enemies I know not. And when will you visit your works? Baruch is praying for Yah to hasten his judgment, intervene, and bring about justice upon this wicked world. In his prayer, Baruch expresses a deep yearning for Yah to fulfill his promises to establish his righteous kingdom. He also mentions the suffering and oppression faced by Israel. He wanted to be reassured that Yahuwah would act swiftly to bring about his judgment against their adversaries and restore peace and order. Baruch presented to the Most High the plight of Israel, calling for Yahuwah to bring justice to those who have been wronged. By Baruch repeatedly pleading for Yahuwah to hasten his judgment tells us that there's a sense of urgency in the face of ongoing suffering and injustice of his people. There's going to come a time when Yahuwah is going to open the book, in which is recorded all human actions. These books have divine knowledge of all of our deeds. This is letting us know that we will be held accountable for the life that we have lived. These divine records are capturing the sins of the wicked and the righteous acts of the faithful. Everything is being documented. This tells us that nothing escapes divine awareness. Now, I need to give you a little lesson in something before we continue, because the Christians do not like looking outside of the 66 books. Now, if you read the book of Jeremiah, you should know that Baruch served as a scribe for the prophet Jeremiah. He is known for recording Jeremiah's prophecies and messages specifically during the time of the great turmoil for the kingdom of Judah. For all of
I have a question on that. Is everybody aware of that Baruch is in the book of Jeremiah? He's Jeremiah's scribe. He's the one that brought the message to Zedekiah, because they had Jeremiah in the dungeon because he was prophesying to them, and they didn't want him to, because everything Jeremiah prophesied came to pass. So Zedekiah, which was wicked, had him put in the dungeon. So Jeremiah wrote a letter. He spoke it to Baruch, when Baruch wrote it down and took it to Zedekiah. So Baruch is not some fictitious character. He's actually in the book of Jeremiah. He's a scribe to Jeremiah. Is everybody familiar with that?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
For you good Christians who do not want to read outside of the 66 books, I'm going to go ahead and make it easy for you. I want Brother Baruch to be credible for all of his work, so I put a bit of the puzzle together for you. This is Jeremiah chapter 36 and verse 4. It says, Then Jeremiah called Baruch the son of Neriah, and Baruch wrote from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of Yahuwah. which he had spoken unto him on a roll of a book. Jeremiah 36:10 reads, Then Baruch read the words of Jeremiah in the house of Yahuwah, in the chamber of Jeremiah, the son of Shaphan the scribe, in the higher court at the entry of the new gate of Yahuwah's house. I have one more verse for you so that we can move along. This is Jeremiah chapter 45 and verse 1. The word that Jeremiah the prophet spake unto Baruch the son of Neriah, when he had written these words in a book at the mouth of Jeremiah, in the 4th year of Jehoiakim, the son of Josiah, king of Judah. So now, as we continue to read from the book of Baruch, it is important to note that the visions and revelations given to Baruch was from the scribe of Jeremiah and addresses the destruction of Jerusalem, the nature of the suffering of Judah, and the hope for future restoration. With that being said, reason for the destruction that has come upon the world in these end times.
Every black person living should go to Ghana and see them slave castles so you can see what they did to us. You got to see what they did to us. You got to see how they built these dungeons underground and they put these churches on top and they dug holes in the ground.
Jeremiah's messages and visions reflect the despair following the temple's destruction and offers a message of consolation and the promise of divine justice at the end of this time. So now, back to the divine books being open and judgment of the righteous and unrighteous. Now, we read about this in the book of Baruch. That's where we left off. But I also want to look at another precept in Malachi, chapter 3, verses 16 through 18. It says, Then they that feared Yahuwah spake often one to another, and Yahuwah listened and heard it, and a book of remembrance was written before him for them that feared Yahuwah and that thought upon his name. And they shall be mine, said Yahuwah of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them, as a man spare his own son that serve him. Look at verse 17, family, because the group, when we get back into it, is going to say this exact same thing. It's going to talk about how the Most High is going to spare us in these last days. It says, And they shall be mine, said Yahuwah of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spare his own son that serve him. And verse 18 tells us that it's going to be easy in this day, in this particular time, to discern between the righteous and the unrighteous. You'll clearly be able to see who serves Yahuwah and who's wicked. The Most High said that in that day, he is going to spare his jewels. What day is he referring to? The end of days. He said he's going to make up his jewels. These are his righteous people, and he's going to spare them, meaning he's going to protect us from harm. Why? Because there's going to be tribulations. Okay, so this is second Baruch.
So another way you can look at that when it says Jews, like I was saying before, Isaiah 44, he's gonna pour his spirit out on all flesh, right? And the ones that respond to his word, respond to the truth, them Jews. You can look at it like that too, because people that's on the line and people that's awakening, and then you want to share this information with other people, and they ain't trying to deal with it. So there ain't no Jews, because once he pour his spirit out, and you respond to it, and you start getting it, those are the Jews.
25. Starting at verse 1, it reads, And he answered and said unto me, You too shall be preserved till that time, till that sign which El Elyon will work for the inhabitants of the earth in the end of days. If this scene goes all the way back to the destruction of Jerusalem, why is the Most High giving Baruch a vision of the end times? You have to ask yourself that in order to understand on. Allow me to answer for you. The tribe of Judah was the last tribe to go into captivity and were dispersed or scattered to the four corners of the earth. Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 12 reads, "And he shall set up an ensign for the nations and shall assemble the outcasts of Israel." Now you must ask the question, who is the outcast of Israel in this context? Then it says, "and gathered together the dispersed of Yehudah." You see, people get confused with this verse. They think that all of Israel was scattered to the four corners of the earth. But the key words here is, "and shall assemble the outcast of Israel." And shall assemble the outcast of Israel. You gotta know who the outcasts of Israel are, because Israel and Yehudah are still separate. Now let's continue reading in Baruch chapter 25.
Yeah, I want to add to that too. So check out this is something that you need to know. We know in Isaiah chapter 11 and verse 10, it says he's going to use an ensign and the son of Jesse, David, right? And what we just explained, that he dispersed the tribe, he scattered the tribe of Judah, right? Well, David out of Judah. Remember what he told Daniel? He told Daniel, "You're gonna rest, and you're gonna die and rest, and then you're gonna stand up. You're gonna resurrect them in his lot." So what's his lot? In his tribe. So what you looking in Isaiah chapter 10, you're gonna resurrect David. Where? Among Judah, his people.
Why? Because the Most High is going to tell us this is concrete, factual information to know the sign when the Most High is going to be doing His work in the world in the last days. The Most High told you what's going to happen when He begins to do His work in the end times. It is up to you to be able to identify His work. He's telling you what it is. It says, "This therefore shall be the sign when a stupor shall seize the inhabitants of the earth, and they shall fall into many tribulations, and again when they shall fall into great torments." Let's look up what stupor is. Okay, so it says a sense of collective bewilderment or paralysis affecting people globally. It can suggest confusion, despair, or significant events that leave people in shock, like pandemics, political turmoil, weather disasters, technological disruptions, privacy concerns, job instability, and economic crisis like financial instability.
That's what we
Okay, and verse 4 says, "And it shall come to pass when they say in their thoughts, by reason of their much tribulation, El Elohim no longer remembers the earth. Yeah, it will come to pass when they abandon hope. Time will then awake." Do you find that people are hopeless right now? Are we living in the period of time where there's so much world destruction going on that people are hopeless right now? And destruction doesn't always necessarily mean destruction by death, but it can also mean the destruction of material things. I'll ask you again, are we living in a time where people are becoming hopeless? Are people losing their faith? Are you seeing a mass destruction where some people are being spared and some are not?
But if his house is touched by God, what happened to the rest of the neighborhood?
God didn't care about us. There it shows it right now. But I'm going to let this go, close my gate, and I'm going to get out of here. Because it's just making me sick.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and look at Baruch chapter 26. Now, I find it so interesting that Baruch is directly asking the Most High questions and he's answering him back. So we're getting the information on the signs of the end of days straight from the Most High's mouth. Okay, so Baruch 26 reads, "And I answered and said, will that tribulation, which is to be continued a long time, and will that necessity embrace many years?" Chapter 27, "And he answered and said unto me, into 12 parts is that time divided. and each one of them is reserved for that which is appointed for it. Okay, so these plagues are divided up parts, and each part has a specific plague. And it reads, in the first part, there shall be the beginning of commotions, and in the second part, there shall be slayings of the great ones, and in the third part, the fall of many by death, and in the fourth part, the sending of the sword, and in the fifth part, famine and the withholding of rain. You see, Yah makes it rain, but he also withhold the rain. Number 7, and in the sixth part, earthquakes and terrors. And for the seventh part, family, I read that it was kind of left out. So the only thing that was there was wanting. So I'm not really sure what that one means. But we can go ahead and go to the eighth part, a multitude of specters and attacks of the Shedem. And when I looked up the definition of Shedem, it said attacks and violence of demons. Pay special attention to what the ninth part is. It says the fall of fire. And in the 10th part, rapine and much oppression. What is rapine? It means the violent seizure of someone's property. Do you think that someone's property can be violently taken or seized by just humans? Or can it be by some sudden violent destruction? The way I see it, violent masters are very capable of seizing someone's property, violently taking someone's property. We're on verse 12. It says, and in the 11th part, wickedness and unchastity. We have to know what unchastity means. Now we know that this is the new spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah. People are having sex with whoever they want and with whatever they want. So it means sexual acts that are considered morally wrong. And verse 13 says, and in the 12th part, confusion from the mingling together of all those things aforesaid. So all of these plagues, 1 through 11 parts, will be happening simultaneously. And it goes on to say, for these parts of that time are reserved and shall be mingled one with another and minister one to another. Again, they will all be happening at the same time. And then Yah explains how this will happen. He says in verse 15, for some shall leave out some of their own and receive in its stead from others, and some complete their own and that of others, so that those may not understand who are upon the earth in those days, that this is the consummation of the times. So this is a final phase in Yahuwah's plan for creation. It is the end of the times, leading to the fulfillment of divine promises and the establishment of Elohim's kingdom. So that's true. While some religions teach that the world is going to end, they do not tell why. They do not tell what sin is. They do not tell who the Israelites are. They don't tell who the true Hamashiach is. And what strikes me as weird is that these pastors do teach of the end time. Pastor Hagee is good for it. However, the so-called church still can't discern the signs of the times. Everyone seems to repeat what the news tells them. It's climate change, global warming, and evil people with a big weather machine. Let's head back to Baruch. There's only 2 verses that we're going to read in Baruch chapter 28. Verse 1 says, nevertheless, whosoever understands shall then be wise. And then in verse 6, Baruch asks, if in one place or in one of the parts of the earth that those things are come to pass, or will the whole earth experience them? Because Judah was scattered to the 4 corners of the earth, and the Israelites are still in a certain place of the earth. Yahuwah is going to have to send plagues to all 4 corners of the world. So the whole world is going to have to experience these tribulations until the Most High brings the Israelites out of captivity. Whosoever understands this is wise. These are the people who are able to understand and discern the signs of what the Most High said he would do at the end of this age.
So this is what I was talking about right here. When I was talking about how the Most High, the prophecies that already been prophesied, they didn't tamper with them, and took out certain things. But what they got in Revelations, they trying to follow a narrative on that, but they actually doing what, like you just said, Judah, Israel been scattered over the whole world. So he got to bring drama to the world. Well, look what Esau doing. He want to rule the world for 1,000 years, and he want to bring everybody subject to Jerusalem and to those Edomites that's over there. So they got this elaborate plan to bring all the whole world under subjection, not realizing you're actually doing what the Most High already prophesied. He's using them to do it. Just like he used Cyrus and Nebuchadnezzar, he's using them. Okay?
They see the hand of Yah and do not believe that every weather disaster is climate change, global warming, weather machines,
right,
and our wicked people.
Doing the Most High work.
These people believe the Most High when he said the end times will bring about 12 parts of individual disasters, with number 12, them all mingling together. Whosoever understands shall then be wise. Baruch chapter 29. And he answered and said unto me, whatsoever will then befall will befall the whole earth. Therefore all who live will experience them. For at that time I will protect only those who are found in those selfsame days in this land. And it shall come to pass, when all is accomplished, that was to come to pass in those parts, that Hamashiach shall then begin to be revealed. And Behemoth shall be revealed from his place, and Leviathan shall ascend from the sea. Those two great monsters, which I created on the 5th day of creation, shall have kept until that time, and then they shall be for food for all that are left.
You want ads that drive results. That's why we built Roku.
The earth also shall yield its fruit 10,000-fold, and on each vine there shall be 1,000 branches, and each branch shall produce 1,000 clusters, and each cluster produce 1,000 grapes, and each grape produce a core of wine. And those who have hungered shall rejoice. Moreover also they shall behold. Okay, so I already have a video on the behemoth and the Leviathan. I believe that we're living in those days that we're going to see these great monsters real soon. So it's not a matter of will it happen, but when will it happen? Okay, so let's go ahead and get into chapter 30. It reads, and it shall come to pass after these things, when the time of the advent of Hamashiach is fulfilled, that he shall return in glory. Then all who have fallen asleep in hope of him shall rise again, and it shall come to pass at that time that the treasuries will be opened, in which preserve the number of the souls of us, and they shall come forth, and a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one assemblage of one thought, and the first shall rejoice, and the last shall not be grieved. For they know that the time has come of which it is said, that it is the consummation of the times. But the souls of the wicked, when they behold all these things, shall then waste away the more. For they shall know that their torment has come, and their perdition has arrived. In closing, let's do a quick summary of chapter 30. These verses speak to the future arrival of the Messiah, indicating that there will be a specific time when he will return. The apocalypse of Abraham says that
So let's look at that right quick.
Yahushua will return.
She said already, and then she killed it. But let's look at this right quick. I want to show you something. Right here.
Shall be seen together in one assemblage of one thought, and the first shall rejoice or return in glory. Then all who have fallen asleep in hope of him shall rise again, and it shall pass at that time that the treasuries will be opened, in which preserve the number of the souls of righteousness, and they shall come forth, and a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one assemblage of one thought, and the first shall rejoice, and the last shall not be grieved. For they
So it's right there in our face. It's right there in Isaiah. It's in Isaiah. So that was second Ezra. Second Baruch chapter 30, verse 2. So I'm gonna show you that right here in Isaiah. Isaiah 66. So she said they're gonna, let me read it. It says, they all have fallen asleep. Like he told Daniel, go thy way and sleep. You're gonna stand up in the last days. It says, then all who have fallen asleep of him shall arise again, and it shall come to pass at that time that the treasury will be opened, in which it is preserved the number of the souls of righteous, and they shall come forth. So that a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one assemblage or one thought. So here you go right here. I read this all the time. Word of the Lord, this is Isaiah 66 and 5. Starting at Isaiah 66 and 5, says, hear the word of the Lord, ye that tremble at his word, your brethren that hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake, said, let the Lord be glorified, but he shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed. A voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord that renders recompense to his enemies. Before she travailed, this the woman, this assemblage of souls, the righteous, right? It says, before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pains came, she was delivered of a man child. It's David. This is the Mashiach, that they think is JC, but it's him right here, David. So before he resurrected our forefathers, he resurrected David first. Then 8, who have heard such a thing, who have seen such a thing, shall the earth be made to bring forth one day? Here you go. Or shall a nation be born at once? That's this group of people right here. It's in Second Baruch, chapter 30, verse 2. Then check it out. It says, at once, for as soon as she travailed, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring them to birth and not cause to bring forth, says the Lord? Shall I cause to bring forth and shut the womb, says the Lord? Rejoice with Jerusalem. This that group of people right here. Rejoice with Jerusalem. Be glad with her, all ye that love her. Rejoice for joy with her, all ye that mourn for her, that ye may suck. So they're all right there. Any question, and all what these Edomites have done and these Gentiles who went to scriptures, they standing right there with the knowledge. So it says, I'm gonna read that again in Second Baruch 30. It says, then all who have fallen asleep in hope of him shall rise again, and it shall come to pass at that time that the treasuries will be opened, in which is preserved the number of the souls of the righteous, and they shall come forth. See that? Jeremiah, Ezekiel, all these people that we've been reading about all this time, says, and they shall come forth, and a multitude of souls shall be seen together in one assemblage. So it's going to be a place where they all at. And that's why he's saying right here, rejoice with Jerusalem, be glad with her, all ye that love her, rejoice for joy with her, all ye that mourn for her, that ye may suck and be satisfied with the breast of her consolation, that ye may milk out and be delighted with the abundance of her joy. That's what he's talking about. Same thing right here in Second Baruch. Okay. Any questions, comments on that video? If you want to check it out, the video is the tribe of Judah, end time prophecies, and the restoration of Israel, Second Baruch. That's the name of the video. You want to go back and dissect it or whatever, get the meat out. Okay, everybody good on that?
Shalom.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
Oh, go ahead, Sister Tasha.
I apologize. I had a quick question. She talked about the two beasts from the beginning, and I assume she was talking about the Lethite. I can't pronounce it. Uh,
Leviathan.
yes, I thought one of them was killed already to feed the Israelites when they were in the desert.
Yeah. So like I was saying before, with the when you say uh Satan, right?
Hmm.
That's not a name. That's a title.
Hmm.
So like in the garden, Satan came in the garden, but his name was Lucifer. Samuel is his name. Then we seen where Abraham was attacked by Satan. And that was Mamre, Mamre, whatever. So Satan is a title. So when you look at Leviathan, when on television, like when they had those cruises for like that, go to Alaska for the cruises, they show
Yeah.
those big old whales coming up out of the water on the side of the boat.
Hmm.
That's Leviathan.
Mm.
More than one.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else got anything? You got something, AJ?
But Shalom, brother Leonard, you said Leviathan is more than one, male and
It's
female.
a well, it's like for example, another thing when in the beginning he says that on the sixth day he created animals, right?
Right, yes,
Like
sir.
just say cattle. He ain't just create one cattle, he created a herd. Then from that the herd grew. Because that's how we see them now. When we see animals, we see a herd, right? We see herds of animals.
Right,
He didn't just create a one animal, a female antelope and a male antelope. He created a herd of antelopes. So when he told Noah to go and get them, he said get one of each kind because of what I'm saying. But when he created them in like I said, the ones that live by in herds. For example, a bee. You think he just created one bee?
right, no, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So it's the same with that. You got it's sea monsters, all kind of whales, and then you got to look at the fact that whoever this Leviathan is, the meat it's got to be clean meat because he gave it to the Israelites, didn't he?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, so yeah, so it just that's meat talking. So yeah,
Mm.
but yeah. So anybody else got anything on that?
I just want to make another comment. Every time I hear about David and them coming back and stuff like that, first of all, I'm very excited about that, and then I think about how, um, Esau and all of his people and that whole mindset. They're trying to control the narrative with revelations and because they want to be in control. They don't know how not to be in control. So they're trying to with all the propaganda, it often makes me think about these movies about the army of the dead coming back to life and how they have villainized the idea that somebody coming back to life is a bad thing and that it's
Right,
something to be feared. But we know when we see that's something to rejoice. So every time I hear that, it makes me think about that and how they continue to try to control the narrative because they don't want to believe what is coming or the truth. They want to feel like they can and will be in control and that the prophecies will not come to pass. So I just always think about that.
right, exactly. Right, and what we're looking at now, the panicking part of it. They see that they ain't no different than everybody else that came. They rose and they fallen. They ain't really in control of nothing. They doing what everybody else, the creator had everybody else do. There's a higher power that's greater than what they doing.
But they always think that they different.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Somebody want to pick a scripture so we can break it down and then we'll close out. Can somebody get that scripture from Exodus where he fed the Israelites the Leviathan? Can you find that?
Let me see if I can find it real quick.
Okay, yeah, like I was saying before, it's like she was breaking down. We've been brainwashed. She had that list of books that was she brought up on the screen, had to do with the Christian, the church fathers, white folks, got you believing that they denigrated certain books that we need in these last days to help on our comprehension of and connecting dots. They didn't brainwash us not to read them. And the average person choose not to they look at those books like a plague, when the whole time he's Lord of Hosts already promised and prophesied that he was going to bring forth that knowledge in the last days. So yeah. Okay.
Excuse me. I can't. I was trying to bring it up on my phone because I don't have my Bible with me. I'm out in the community. So I
Right.
was listening. I apologize. I can't pull it up real quick. It's bringing me up a bunch of other stuff.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So it's a verse in I'll paraphrase it. It's a verse over in Exodus when the Israelites came out of Egypt and they started complaining to Moses about not having. They was eating angel food, which is what that wasn't enough for them. They was eating same food the angels eat, but they wanted meat. So Lord of Hosts brought a strong wind and went into the sea, and then out of the sea came a whole bunch of quails, and he brought them to the shore and dumped them in the place where the Israelites was at for them to eat. And then once they started eating them, he choked a lot of them. He choked them to death and killed them. But that was actually the body of Leviathan that he had gave them. Okay. So with that being said, if anybody don't have anything else, I'm gonna say shalom, shalom, and another shalom. I see y'all tonight for our we'll close out the Shabbat at 6 p.m. Central Time. Shalom, shalom, and
Shalom.
another.
Shalom.
I highly recommend that you get this book and you read it because it's a must that you understand who God head is in the order that's in the Old Testament and Tanakh, because it's not the same as in the New Testament. And when you read this and you get an understanding, then the scriptures open up and then you begin to understand. So I highly recommend that you get this book. It's the Elohim of Israel, and it's a breakdown on the word Elohim and who the God of Israel is and the Godhead.